Wow. What's up, YouTube? This Flan Speaks back, man. I'm going to speak here about the Brooklyn Nets, man, and what's going on with them, this historic, monumental failure that we're witnessing. Either this team, man, is going to follow history, be a historic failure and getting swept, or they're going to lose, or they'll be the first team ever to come back from 3-0 and win. I don't see that last one happening, and more than likely, man, he might get swept. Because I don't know now. Just looking at what's happening, I'm starting to question the mental toughness of the players and the team. Listen, I'm a Philadelphia 76ers Eagles fan through and through, right? Period. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I still live in the area. So that's it. So I'm going to tell you from the rip. Of all the sports franchises in the NBA, there's no team that I despise and that I see as a rival more than the Boston Celtics. Period. I embrace the history going back to the days of Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, and the Celtics constantly getting in the way of Philadelphia, even when they were the Philadelphia Warriors originally, getting championships, and when they became the Philadelphia 76ers, the Boston Celtics standing in the way of them becoming championships many years in the 60s, until the Sixers finally cracked through in 67, 68 season, or 66, 67 season, where Wilt finally won his first one as a member of the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the greatest teams ever, won almost 70 games that year. I recall some of the Doc years. I mean, I was too young to really understand what was going on, but I was in a home where people were tuned in to what was happening on the television set. All right, so I felt the energy in the environment. I literally do remember the Sixers winning the title. I remember the gallery downtown, which was the place where everybody went. You know, you didn't have a whole bunch of malls back then. You're talking about 1983. I remember people literally bussing up, running up in the stores, Buster Brown's and different stores like that, and stealing Dr. J's Converses. Right? It was like almost riots, man. I remember all of that. And, you know, just as important as it was beating the Lakers, man, just as important it was beating Boston's ass, because they were always in the way. Then we look at the years of Allen Iverson, man. We had to deal with Paul Pierce and Antoine Walker at first. You know, they were actually never quite as good as the Sixers, but there was one season they were in the way. I believe it was the 2002 season, if I'm not mistaken. You know, Boston was in the way there, and then just recently the Joel Embiid's era and Ben Simmons era. Two of the times, you know, Embiid has always made it to the playoffs with the exception of his rookie year where he only played 20-some-odd games. And in two of those seasons, we were once upset, and then the other time, you know, we were the inferior team, eliminated by none other than the damn Boston Celtics. You know, who, while we're building and having the process years, the Boston Celtics under Danny Ainge were just grabbing wing players. You know, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. You know, after they finally got rid of the dude that's 5'6", you know, the fake Isaiah Thomas, they invested in wing players, and the argument, the debate was always there. You know, who built it better? And I'm gonna tell you right now, man, it's close, and we're probably going to be on a crash course at some point because Boston is going to dispatch Brooklyn. I got them dispatching probably Milwaukee, though. That's going to be interesting to see. I got us beating Miami. Hopefully Embiid's injury doesn't prohibit that, but I think anything short of an Embiid injury, we're beating Miami. But the reason I think Boston is the biggest threat right now is because they're playing a style of basketball that I do believe in, and that is defense, defense, man. And what they're doing, and the same thing with us. I like what we're doing. Both of us are doing old school things that the league, man, really needs to see. And one, Sixers playing through the big man, which is something you don't see a lot now. And Boston is playing through defense wings, which we know works, man. The Bulls of the 90s showed you that. You have two great defensive wings. You can win like that. So they're mad dangerous, man. And I can't really wait to see them. But anyway, with Brooklyn Nets, I just remember, I'm not surprised this is happening with them at all. I never believed in really the team structure, the way they're built. I don't care about what happened on March 10th when they blew us out. I mean, that was a game where clearly the Sixers were, with James Harden just coming in, they weren't a team that has played together long. And, I mean, he got blitzed on that day. There was a battery under the backpack of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, probably offended that James Harden felt like he could win a championship with Embiid before he could win one with him. So I think Durant had that going on. And then Kyrie Irving, something going on with him and James Harden. There's been rumors that, Kyrie Irving and James Harden were playing one-on-one and didn't personally like each other because Kyrie Irving was, smoking them in one-on-one play. That rumor has been denied by Daryl Morey, but who knows? It could be something that led to James Harden's play now, because I believe James Harden's issue really is more mental than physical. A lot of people think it's physical, but I think there is a shake in his confidence somewhere. Because, you look at, excuse me, if you look at what's happening with him, he does, people are saying doesn't get by people. It depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about, great defenders, it's a little trouble getting by some of those guys. But I recall him having trouble with that in the past. I remember Ben Simmons sticking him back in the seasons in Houston. He would have some type of trouble with that. He's not the most athletic guy. No, I'm not saying he hasn't missed a step, but what I'm saying is even when he does get past people, he's missing short runners, he's missing floaters and layups. That's more of a mental thing. He's thinking too much instead of just, playing with the supreme confidence. You got to remember, Houston James Harden believed he was the best player in the league. That's what he believed about himself. Now I don't think he's sure about that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie Irving has something to do with that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that having something to do with him wanting to get away from him. Not out of fear of Kyrie Irving, but more so out of, I just don't like this dude. I just don't like this cat. And I'd rather just beat him on the court. To me, it doesn't mean much to me if Kyrie Irving was beating him in one-on-one play, because basketball ultimately is a 5-on-5 sport. It doesn't really matter who's the better one-on-one player, if you know what I mean. Like, no one could probably beat Kobe Bryant in one-on-one. Right? But, you could still beat his team, which really is what's going to matter at the end of the day, because it's a 5-on-5 sport, right? So I think part of what Kyrie Irving, James Harden did, get away from this dude and just work on just clearing his head, that kind of thing. That may have happened. I don't know if that's true or not, right? But Brooklyn needs to rebuild their team and adding to it defensive players, people who commit to that. They need to change that philosophy. Ben Simmons can help in that area. The only problem is I don't know what he's going to do for them offensively until he changes his mindset. Because you got to do it on both sides, on both ends of the floor. You got to contribute on both ends in whatever capacity that's going to be. I think the Sixers, of course, are in better shape this year than Brooklyn. I always thought that. This season, they're in better shape than them. Because while the Sixers would actually be a better matchup against Boston than Brooklyn is. All right, because while the Sixers are not an elite defensive team, they are a good defensive team. They rank top 10 in the league. Though there are some lapses and there are some areas of defense where they're not great in, like transition defense. However, When they want to dig in and tighten that up, they do. It's more of an issue. It's less of an issue of athletic ability or size problems, and more of an issue of like focus, concentration. I truly believe that. Because we've seen some instances, especially against Toronto in this series, where they have played very good transition defense. All right, and also, and then too, these other people, man, worrying about Toronto, it's over in 5, man. I've heard Stephen A.J. and Jalen Rose talk, really go in on the Sixers for losing. I mean, come on, you lost a game in Toronto where Toronto was desperate and needed a win, on the road in a place that is tough to play, that we traditionally have little problems playing. It's nothing. Not going to lose to Toronto. Stop it. Embiid's not going to miss the way he did, and I don't even care about the hand, all right, because you saw he started to shoot better later on in the game. Same with Maxey, same with I will admit Toronto made some adjustments, I think, some better adjustments, but that's what happens in series. You adjust and then you readjust. Okay, they adjusted, now the Sixers have to readjust, and they will. This thing will be over next game, man. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to talk about Boston specifically a little bit later, in another video. But Brooklyn, man, this looks bad. Looks bad, man. You got Kevin Durant shooting 35% from the floor. You got Kyrie Irving not doing much better. 16 points in these situations, man. That's bad. It's bad. And Boston is hella dangerous. Believe that. And I kind of knew they were during the season when they went on that crazy winning streak. They found their identity, defense, which is the same identity they had a few years ago when they were dangerous and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals before they were ousted, I believe, by LeBron's Cavs. And LeBron was able to get past them, and KD wasn't. That's going to look bad. And then Kyrie, he has no excuses either. Marcus Smart, I guess, primarily locking him up. And then the Ramadan thing, now, please. All right, I'm fasting right now, and I go to work fasting. I've played sports fasting, and any Muslim knows that really during Ramadan you get a different type of energy, But sometimes it's based on your faith too. Hakeem Olajuwon, as we know, in Ramadan, 2 consecutive years, he led his team to championships. So he played in Ramadan back in the 90s, and it's something we know, we understand about Ramadan that others don't. And then even some Muslims like Molly Karam spoke about it, brought it up almost as an excuse. And Molly, I believe, is from an Albanian Islamic tradition herself. I don't know if she's practicing anymore, but her thinking that it's real and can have an impact on you just shows her level. I'm not going to speak about her, I don't know her, but that's not a good sign. She doesn't really understand the type of strength and energy that does come from fasting. All right, because even when you look at the human body, the body stores energy in a certain way. The glucose that you use up later after the glucose is used up, which is from your food storage and this particularly sugar storage that you use for energy. Once that's used up, you have second deposits. You have ketones in your body that you use. All right, so Kyrie would be able to activate those ketones if he did use up all the glucose storage. You don't have to constantly eat in order to have energy, And that's just what science tells us. But for the Muslim who knows from his faith, it's different. You get a certain type of energy, man. You're working from an energy source that is the other people don't know about. But that's just what I got to say about that. Kyrie, man, I don't know, they got to adjust. Right? But it ain't the fasting. So believe that. They just got to adjust, man. So I got Boston probably sweeping them. If not, maybe Brooklyn could get one. And then we'll see what they do with Milwaukee, man. But I know this, if Giannis is able to be productive against them and dominate them, especially with a hobble Chris Middleton, and if he comes back, and if he doesn't come back, and KD doesn't, I think that argument over who's the best in the league, which I already believe is Giannis anyway, because of what he does on both sides of the floor. needless to say, will tip heavily in the scales of Giannis, right? For those who say KD can D up, it's not consistent, man. Just, if you just D up just when you feel like it, same way with Kyrie, D up when you feel like it, but other times you don't. To me, you're not really a two-way guy. Right? You're a 1.5-way guy. And that ain't going to get it, man. But anyway, man, that's all I got. I'll catch y'all later, man, when the Sixers get Toronto up out of here, man. Peace.